here we are, and the season is about to begin. Now, I don't do a lot of videos in the summer. I avoid it just because it's summer. There's not a whole lot going on, and honestly, there's so many websites and rumor sites and stupid stuff. I just don't really see the point other than talking about actual stuff that's going on. But now that the season's here, it's time to get going, and I'm going to do a little bit of a preview of what I kind of think will happen with the Canadian teams, although I'm not a big predictor. I tried to predict last season and last playoffs. It didn't go so well for not just me, for most people. It was totally weird. The way the league is now, it's very difficult to make those kind of predictions. But I'm going to give you a little bit of what I think is likely to happen. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is Domi Ekblad saga thing.
Max Domi will be out of this game, I would imagine, as they were battling in the corner. And Ekblad, at this point, is determined, I'm not going to be involved in this. Max Domi doesn't let him get away from it, and there's the one with the fist.
Honestly, man, like, this is pathetic. Like, seriously pathetic. Like, Ekblad, like, just put your arms up. Just push him. Do something. Instead of just standing there saggy to the side. Hey, linesman, help me out. Do it. I don't want to. It's Domi. I mean, he's Domi. He's so tough and strong. Domi's not a good fighter. This is not Ty Domi. Okay, this is not Ty Domi. This is not a good fighter. This person, when he had John Scott, like I wrote an article about a long time ago in Phoenix, was a great player because somebody was there protecting him. And as soon as he had to protect himself, when Scott got unloaded, he stopped getting points, and he's basically has never really been very good since. He's not a good fighter. He's small. He gets pushed off the puck. He needs somebody to intimidate the other team. Okay, so here's Ekblad. He's a half a foot taller than him. He outweighs him by almost 30 pounds, and he's afraid to even just put his hand up. Ekblad, like, that's terrible. Like, I understand it's a sucker punch, although it looked like a rabbit punch. I don't know how he was bloodied up, and just it looked like he got the crap kicked out of him in a back alley by like 3 dudes. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It was a sucker punch. It was dirty, but really, like, Aaron, man, like, grow some, dude. Like, stand up for yourself. Don't be such a poon. That's what's going to happen. And I said, retribution's coming. Blah, blah, blah. In the regular season. Oh, that's a good idea. So you had an opportunity in the preseason to knock his head off or whatever you wanted to do, and now you're going to wait and get suspended in the regular season or something like that. Like, that just sounds dumb. Next, I just wanted to bring up the TSN quiz from Saturday. The last question, I think this is why they were being really awkward, is the first of all, the question was, who's grittier, Gallagher Kachuk, Kadri, and then Gritty, the Philadelphia Flyers guy. Are you kidding me? Like, Gallagher, Kachuk, and Kadri are the gritty guys in the NHL now? Like, honestly, folks, like, if you're old enough to remember guys like Bobby Probert and Cox and Wendell and Domi and all those guys, are you kidding me? These guys they never fight. They're not very big for the most part. They're not big hitters, really. I guess Kachuk is, to a degree. He's probably the most gritty of them. But are you kidding me? This is gritty now? This is what we're saying. Honestly, gritty is grittier than any of those guys. I don't understand. Next, Sharks, Karlsson. This is the team. I think Peg's going to go all the way, but this move is going to make it harder. Not because I think Karlsson is a great defenseman. I've talked about this numerous times. I wrote an article about all the stats and everything. He has to have that good stay-at-home defenseman beside him. And, of course, now he goes to the perfect team. It looks like he's going to play with Vlasic, who I would argue is probably the best defensive defenseman in the NHL. So this is a perfect scenario. It also pulls Burns back to the second pairing, which is going to give him more room. So the Sharks are scary, in my opinion. And I think Karlsson's going to have a really big year, and he's not going to be minus 30 because he's going to be playing with Vlasic, who's going to cover up all of his crappy defensive mistakes, or at least a lot of them. Weber, obviously he should be the captain of the Montreal Canadiens. I do wonder physically if he's gone over the hump, because he has always been a very physical player. Maybe his body's not responding anymore like it used to. That happens to guys. But I still think Weber, when healthy, is one of the best defensemen in the league. And it makes sense that he's the captain. He's been there, done that. And Montreal's better for it, although Montreal's still going to suck probably really bad this year. Okay, so previews in terms of the Canadian franchises. Edmonton. So now there's all these rumors that Lucic is supposedly unhappy. I think part of the reason he might be unhappy is because after he signed originally with Edmonton, he was going on and on about, McDavid this and McDavid that, and you got the very clear impression he was under the impression, and that doesn't mean he was told this by the club, but he thought, for whatever reason, he would be playing with McDavid on his wing. No, you're too slow, you cannot handle it. He would be useless on McDavid's wing. So I can kind of understand why he may not be happy, but he's just not good enough anymore. Now, I do like that Edmonton seems to have dealt with their first line. There's lots of chemistry there. They had to move Nuge up. You had to do something that was a good move. Ratty can put the puck in the net, and he can skate fast enough that, again, solid job. They're probably going to have to pay him a ton of money because I think he only signed a 2-year contract. When that ends, if he's playing with McDavid, he could very, very likely score 30 goals, maybe more. Even if he only scores 25 goals, that's a huge upgrade. I like the guy. I think there's nice chemistry there. It's a good fit. It worked out really nicely for Edmonton. That was a good move. Now, my question still remains. Obviously, there's the defense. Obviously, there's Talbot. I think Talbot will have a bounce back year. The question remains, do they have anything other than a first line? Now, is Draisaitl going to get the job done? Or is he going to continue to be what I perceive as fairly mediocre 5-on-5 with his second line? And it's not just him. It's the other guys on the line, too. I think the defense will be worse and better at the same time. Younger guys getting older, and then the injuries, so it might just be a wash. I think the first line, if they stay healthy, is good enough to at least see Edmonton fighting for a playoff spot this year. I don't think it's going to be as doom and gloom as it was last year. Oh, and of course Talbot is going to have to be really good, and I do think he'll bounce back. Ottawa, there's nothing more to say. Melnick, Ballard called. He wants his legacy back. I feel really bad for you Ottawa fans, but it's a mess, and it looks like it's just continuing. The mess is continuing. So I'm not even going to get into it. It's just a complete disaster. Winnipeg, I think, is going to go all the way this year. Like I said, the only team that I think can stand in their way this year is the Sharks. Montreal, they're small. There's not a lot of explosiveness on that club. There's a little bit of speed. They've got very few guys that can put the puck in the net. Again, management disaster, whether it's ownership, whoever's calling the shots, big problems there. The only way I think they're even going to be 500 is if Price stands on his head. Like if he has a .930 save percentage at the end of the year, they're a 500 hockey team as far as I'm concerned. Vancouver, it's a transition year with the young guys. They do have some good young talent. They kind of came through the crap. I don't understand the Linden thing. He claimed that, they wanted to go after free agents, and he thought, stay the course, which is a good thing. That's what you should do. You don't grab the free agents until you can really see yourself going over the cusp. You don't grab them when you're still not a playoff team or not super, super ultra competitive. I think they could surprise some people. I think they're going to be competitive. I don't think they make the playoffs, but again, I think they're going to be right there, and I think they're going to show glimpses of what's going to happen next year and the years to come. Calgary, I think they're going to get back into the playoffs this year, although the only way they will is if they get better goaltending. But I think they've got the depth, they've got the D, they've got it all. They've got enough to make the playoffs. Getting any further than that, who knows? But I do think they get in this year as long as the goaltending is decent. Neal was a really good pickup. You've got the young guys now entering their primes. So now's the time for Calgary to do something. And if they don't get the goaltending that they need to make a change right away and not fiddle around. So it looks like with the Canadian teams, probably only 3 are going to get in. I mean, Calgary might not even get in, but I think they will. If Edmonton can squeeze in, there might be 4 Canadian teams in, but it's entirely possible that it's just 2. It's just the Leafs and Winnipeg. And for Canadian fans, that kind of sucks. Okay, as far as the Leafs look, let's take a look at it. They're going to win the Stanley Cup because the EA Sports Simulator said that they're going to win the Stanley Cup. And that's what I go off. They're right every time. No, in all seriousness, Nylander, you're greedy. You're not worth more than $6 million a year. You're out of your mind. You've been playing with the best 5-on-5 center in the league for 2 years, and you've got 20 goals and 60 points to show for it. This whole idea that they keep saying, oh, he doesn't want to get left behind, when Marner gets his contract and when Matthews gets his contract. Marner's better. Marner's a better hockey player. He was by far better in the playoffs. He's better in the regular season. He was playing with weaker people. And he did better than you. He's better than you. He is going to be worth $8, $9, $10 million because he's probably going to get 90 points this year playing with Tavares. So no, you're not as good. You're max a Pasternak as far as I'm concerned. And even then, I wouldn't even give you that because Pasternak has other things like toughness, digging in the corner, and playoff performance. So you're not worth it. Sorry, Billy. And if you don't want to sign for 6, sayonara as far as I'm concerned. Trade him for a defenseman. I'd love to see Parayko in Toronto. Just saying. Choosing Garrett Sparks. Sparks, to me, has not proven at the NHL level that he's really that good. What makes me nervous is the Leafs waived Picard and McElhinney. Hopefully neither of them get picked up, because at the end of the day, if Anderson goes down in injury, I want McElhinney and Picard up, not just relying on Sparks. You got to have a third guy that you can bring in if Sparks craps the bed, which he may do, because he hasn't shown that he's that great at the pro level. He deserves the opportunity. I understand why they did it. He's been really good at the A level, and I hope he can do it. He just looks kind of awkward and scrambly. He doesn't look great at the NHL level, even in preseason. I know it's only preseason, but it looks to me like the speed is too much for him to handle. That's just me. But just watching him, the best goalies, there's flow. He just seems like he's not ready. Anyway, that's just me. Whatever, we'll see what happens. But if he does poop the bed, at least you can send him back down, and hopefully McElhinney and Picard are still there, and you can bring one of them back up. Carrick's gone. Well, what are you going to do? He sat half the year last year in the press box. They have young guys. Hall, I'm excited. I hope he plays a lot of games. I'd like to see a full season of Dermott. Why would you keep a guy like Carrick? Not that he's a bad guy or he's a horrible hockey player. He's a number 7 defenseman. On a Stanley Cup team, he's at best a number 7 defenseman, and he doesn't play that much, and he's older. Why wouldn't you just get rid of him? So, prediction for the Leafs this year, I don't want to go too crazy. I do think they'll for sure make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be good enough to catch Tampa, but I do think with the changes they've made, they can compete and maybe overtake Boston in the division. So I'll go out on a limb and I'll say number 2 in the division. And I think they'll win one round. Beyond that, it's hard to say. If they get number 2 in the division and they have to play Boston, I think they can finally break through this year. Finally. Although, and don't discount Boston either. They've got great young talent coming up, and they're a very good hockey team. So beating Boston is not going to be easy, but I do think this is the year. I think, again, it'll be 1-2-3 again, most likely, and I think they play Boston again, and I think this is the year.